Alrighty, we are back, and today, instead of exposing online players who continue to rely on broken exploits in the game to get the win at all costs, instead, let us cover the key exploits in the game. Reason being, the creators of Undisputed Steel City Interactive will be releasing a beta to a select few players and content creators to gain their feedback. The content creators involved will likely be those who promote the latest features for their own gain, which in turn help push sales for Undisputed. With that, it is more than likely I will not be one of those testers. So let us publicly break down the key exploits which currently exist in Undisputed's online play, of which, if they are not fixed, Undisputed will launch on consoles dead in the water. Don't forget to like and share to ensure that Steel City take note, and by launch we end up with a game worth investing in. So, in no particular order, we begin with exploit number 1, unlimited dodging. Note how every time I dodge with Muhammad Ali, there is barely any stamina deterrent. The issue with this is that online players are not using the dodge sparingly to avoid a particular punch. Instead, they use it relentlessly and blindly with the hopes to catch you with a counter punch, which in turn multiplies the power of their counter strike. The solution: reduce the short-term stamina by a minimum of 20% for every dodge used. We move on to exploit number 2, the diagonal dodge. This was a new mechanic which was introduced 9 months ago, and let's be honest, it was implemented with very little thought. Despite the physical demand required to pull a move like this off, it does not have a stamina deterrent, which means you end up playing against opponents dodging left to right non-stop, blindly waiting for you to throw a punch so they can counter and multiply the power of their strike. The solution: reduce the short-term stamina by 30% for every diagonal dodge used. Alternatively, get rid of it altogether, since the ability to slip and dodge will suffice. Exploit number 3, the Backstep Straight. Yes, as ridiculous as this animation is, it is the core function of this punch which is primarily ruining online play. You will find high-ranked players using it at the end of every combination. Reason being, more often than not, the Backstep Straight will penetrate and stifle your opponent's offense. It acts as a counter punch, so it multiplies in damage if you dare to attempt a counter of your own. Not only does it have the ability to daze your opponent, the Backstep Straight can also result in a clean knockout. The solution: much like a jab, remove the ability to knock out or daze your opponent. Controversially, I would suggest removing its ability to counter or stun your opponent too, since primarily the punch is being used as a defensive maneuver, in most cases to exit the pocket safely. If you disagree, make sure to let me know in the comments below. We move on to exploit number 4, the southpaw lead body uppercut. Where do we begin? First off, it has the ability to penetrate your block. Second of all, it's like a homing missile. You can land it just outside the pocket, and since it's not a power punch, it has no stamina deterrent, meaning I can essentially dog walk you, throwing only the southpaw body uppercut, to where if you attempt to fight back, the power multiplies and I can knock you out within 4 to 5 strikes. It gets worse. High-ranked online players will use the southpaw body uppercut at the end of every combination. Jab, southpaw body uppercut. Hook, southpaw body uppercut. You get my drift. Despite the lack of momentum when thrown, the southpaw body uppercut inflicts an unrealistic amount of damage. The solution: make it blockable, reduce its power, and across the board, introduce a delay in between combinations which are thrown with the same arm.
Yeah, what a chump, yo. I beat his ass twice. I done wrecked his ass, man. Honor, respect, integrity, keep it 100.
Exploit number 5, slow motion damage. If you do not pace yourself, you can become exhausted for the rest of the match. Exhaustion in its current state places your fighter's punches and dodges in slow motion. The major problem with this solution is that punches still cause the same amount of damage, not to mention that the damage is further multiplied when thrown in combination with a dodge, acting as a counter strike. Subconsciously, you assume there is a clear opening when your opponent throws a snail-paced strike. Sadly, more often than not, the slow motion strike will get the better of you because it is much harder to read what frames trigger a hit impact. The short-term solution is simply to fairly reduce the power of strikes when thrown in slow motion. We move on to exploit number 6, the standing still lead hook. Much like the southpaw body uppercut, there are moments in the game where this lead hook is unblockable, and it gets worse. With some fighters, the lead hook has more range than a jab. The solution: make the punch blockable and be rational in regards to how much power a standing still lead hook with no torque and thrown repeatedly would cause in real life. And since we're rationally evaluating power generated, exploit number 7, the lead power body hook. This punch is the go-to for overpowered fighters. It is like a homing missile at all ranges, it is non-telegraphed, and carries with it an immense amount of damage, more specifically when thrown in combination with a diagonal dodge. Again, as a standalone punch with no torque or momentum, how much damage would it actually cause in real life? The solution: reduce its power when thrown as a standalone punch. We now move on to specific fighter exploits. Exploit number 8, Canelo's lead uppercut. Once again, this is an overpowered, non-telegraphed punch. With very little thought, it can easily interrupt your combinations, therefore multiplying in damage when considered a counter punch. The solution: reduce its damage based on its torque and momentum, and more importantly, further reduce its damage when thrown consecutively. Exploit number 9, the Roy Jones standing still rear hook. The emphasis here is on standing still. This hook causes an immense amount of damage to both the head and the body, and it can be thrown consecutively with no slowdown. More often than not, a Roy Jones opponent will walk you down, plant their feet, and throw this hook to the head, to the body, rinse and repeat. And it will multiply in power if you dare to throw a strike in between. The solution: slow it down and reduce its power, specifically when thrown consecutively. Move on to exploit number 10, Deontay Wilder's power body straight. Now, whilst this punch does have a short-term stamina deterrent, you only have to take a break for 2 seconds to where you can spam it another 3 to 4 times. It is way too accurate, it will break through your combinations, but most importantly, it is overpowered. The solution: remove its ability to break combinations. When thrown, make Wilder more vulnerable to damage, and of course, reduce its power when thrown consecutively. Exploit number 11, the Tyson Fury power straight. Since the last update, Tyson Fury's overall power has shot through the roof, but his most notable exploit is his power straight, which is non-telegraphed, will track you like a homing missile, disrupt your combinations, and cause an immense amount of damage even when thrown consecutively. The solution: reduce Tyson Fury's power across the board. Replace the animation of the power straight with a slightly more telegraphed alternative which currently exists with other fighters, but most importantly, reduce the power straight's tracking. Exploit number 12, Joe Frazier's leaping left hook. Not only is this hook overpowered, it covers way too much distance, and it can be thrown back to back with the same ferocity and very little stamina deterrent. The solution: well, first of all, Joe Frazier should be far more vulnerable to an overhand straight whilst leaping forward with his hands down. Reduce the tracking so we can take more risks attempting a counter. Increase its short-term stamina drain, and last of all, reduce its power, specifically when thrown back to back. We move on to the final exploit, and let me know in the comment sections if you guessed this one right. Yes, the Ali hook slap. The consensus opinion across the Undisputed community is that anyone who still uses Muhammad Ali since the game's early access release has a brain as smooth as butter. Muhammad Ali carries with him both a left and right hook, which when thrown pull you into the pocket and in combination unleash a devastating amount of damage. When you consider that Ali was always fighting on his toes, the mere concept of him planting his feet and throwing nothing but hooks whilst his opponents cower on the outside puts a bit of a stain on his legacy for the younger demographic. Ali is one of the most beloved fighters, yet the majority of Undisputed consumers despise his representation in this game. The short-term solution: reduce the damage of his hooks to where you had it a few months ago. The long-term solution: Muhammad Ali needs his own distinct fighting style and animations. That includes the ability to throw a standard jab whilst on the move. These are the key exploits which I believe need to be fixed before Undisputed's official release. A big thank you to all those who have subscribed and liked the video. I'm sure there are many exploits of which I have missed. Please include those exploits in the comment section description, and I'll be sure to compile a list collecting your feedback into one pinned comment. Let us hope that this list of exploits finds its way through the company bureaucracy, egos of lower management, and reaches the employees who care about the company bottom line, which is what you're specifically hired to do. If you like this video, be sure to check out some of the videos on screen which showcase these exploits in full. Have a great weekend, take care, peace.